he's
So
calling
Tom,
right now. Hold on. Hi, Mayor.
Apparently I've got the wrong link again because
Okay.
I'm sitting here waiting to get him.
Okay, I'll send you mine. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye. You're welcome.
okay,
Irene gets it.
while we wait for the mayor to join us, since our recording started, I'd like to welcome everybody to the March 11th Board of Estimate and Taxation Budget Review. Again, our purpose here is to review the departmental budgets. As we get going, Madam Clerk, may I ask you to call a roll, please?
Mr. Abrams,
Here?
Mr. Camacho,
I'm here.
Mr. Constant,
Here.
Mr. Gilleret,
Here.
Mr. Casimis,
Here.
Miss Yang,
Here.
and right. We have 5 right now. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I know the mayor will be joining us in just a moment, but
Actually, we have 6. I apologize.
that's okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, I know the mayor will be joining us in just a moment, but before he does, as a reminder, as we've done at the front end of every one of these meetings, our job as BET is to understand the spend, validate the spend as accurate and needed, not to get into the operational detail of each department unless it is specific to understanding aspects of the requested spend. So that with that reminder out of the way, Mr. Mayor, welcome. Any opening remarks from you this evening?
Well, other than the fact that this is the team that helps us get through the budget. They've done a remarkable job in putting together a budget that we can work with. From Tom and Agnes and Chitsame and Joyce and Lisa and Paul, they've done a really, really remarkable job in some very, very difficult times. As you know, this is going to be a challenge, but we're getting through it, and I really appreciate what they've done for us. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tom, the floor and the screen is yours.
Okay, all right, as we've done in the past, I'll be sharing my screen. And here we go.
We seem to have lost Tom for a moment. So give him a minute to rejoin, please.
I'm still here.
Well, there you are.
It is getting a bit finicky on the screen share. I talked to IT after all the crashes last week, and they assured me that it would be better going forward.
There we go.
Okay. You got it?
Yes, sir.
And you see as I'm scrolling?
It is not scrolling, Tom.
Do we have a screen share?
No, it's still frozen from where you were.
Okay, it's telling me that somebody else's is being shared. I will stop that.
Okay, now we've got a budget in front of us.
Do you see me scrolling?
No, you are not
No,
scrolling.
no.
Uh,
Tom, is this the file that you sent out early, over the
Yeah.
weekend, or has it been updated? Tom, you all of a sudden you went on mute, Tom.
All right. Chitsmay, can I send it to you real quick and you can see if you can screen share this?
Do you want me to try and share it, Tom?
Yeah, actually, if you have it.
Let's see if it'll allow me. Hang on a second.
I want to welcome back Artie Kasimis. We haven't seen him in a while. Mr. Kasimis, and also I know Mr. Camacho has been very busy and wasn't able to join us for a couple of days. So it looks like we've got a pretty full team here.
I
But
was
even
eating
more-
crawfish in Louisiana all week last week.
Oh, I feel so sorry for you.
Hang on a second, Tom. It's being fussy about letting me share just the application.
I am gonna make you a co-host if that helps.
Okay.
Okay, you're good.
All right, let me try again. All right, it's not going to let me share because of my system preferences here, Tom. I apologize.
Okay. Chitsmay, are you on?
It's me, you're on mute.
Yes, I could share my screen. That's the email that you sent a couple of days ago.
Yeah, I'm sending it over to you right now again, just to make it easier, but if you have it up, either one will work.
So,
This is the spreadsheet sent on Friday, Tom.
Yeah, yep, there it is.
I mean, I've got it in front of me.
Okay. So if
I think we all do.
you scroll up to the top, Chitsmay, we'll start with the CFO, and no surprise to anyone, but nobody here to talk to this one. I'm kidding. I'm just gonna,
Ah,
okay, can you scroll just a couple columns to the right, Chitsmay, so we can see the percentage at the bottom? There we
There we
go,
go.
9.5%. That is primarily in the accounting and auditing services. That is the object code 5253. So we're putting in 90,000 for that this year versus 55 last year. But Chitsmay, if you scroll just one or two to the left, we can look at the 23 actuals, which should show somewhere around 87, I believe. Yep, there it is. So that's the reason why the increase. So their costs have increased. Like everybody, accountants or CPA firms are struggling to keep help and have to pay up for it. Their prices have gone up. So that's really the main driver in that category. And also 15,000 in part-time. That is the third line down. And that is to cover the cost of the part-time grants writer. Averages about 40 grand a year. We had under budgeted that last year at 25. So we're on track for that this year.
and Tom, just as a point of reference, do you have a rough idea of how much the city recouped in grants that role generated for us?
Not offhand. In the past, I know it takes a long time. It takes a while to get up and running. But Rita is confident that she is covering her salary and then some. And that was as of 2 weeks ago. But then DPW just got that Rita was instrumental in helping them get. So that would more than cover her salary. So I know there's been considerable talk about bringing on a full-time grant writer at some point. That dialogue continues, but obviously at this point in the budget process where we're saying no to all 19 new headcount requests, that's not an option. So
If I could chime in for a second, Rita told me that since she's been here, she's brought in about 7.2 million in grants. I mean, not all that she has prepared herself, but through her team. That does not include approximately $20 million brought in by TMP. The years don't exactly line up, but for Rita's number, and doesn't include the police either, or BOE, of course.
No. Thank you, Tom. Again, it just proves the point that there is a strong return on investment there.
Yeah, we have a very, very effective grant process because each department has people within the department that really understands the grant process and works very hard to put together a competitive grant. And Rita is a monitor and she helps them. So we're doing very good in that arena. Very
Thank you,
well.
Mr. Mayor.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any questions from any of the other BET members about this department?
Yes, are we paying Henry part-time for a period of time?
It's on a consulting basis.
Right.
And so during the early days of putting the budget together and calculating the mill rates and tax rates, we were reaching out to him. He sat in on first few weeks of the meetings and some of the presentations just as backup. Think it's important to let people know that it's a smooth transition and he's there if we need him. But as time has gone on, it's been less and less. I believe that runs until April 30th, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Okay, so he's getting paid on a per hour basis versus a fixed monthly cost.
Yeah, so it's contingent on how much we need, how many times I ask him to sit in on a call or attend a meeting, but only as needed.
In the interviewing for a new CFO, is $200,000 competitive?
We are currently interviewing and a CFO. We probably have a candidate that we're going to put forward. And I'm going to be going out and sitting down with him with Tom Livingston to make sure that this person is the right person.
Understood, but we have enough. That's enough to attract good talent to the city.
We do.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Shall we move on to the tax assessor's office?
Okay, we have Paul Gorman on the line. Tax assessor, if we could just go a couple more to see his total percentage, 7.3%. Fair amount of that is in overtime and part-time hires. But Paul, why don't you take it away from here on the detail?
Okay, so yeah, we had some increases for overtime and part-time because we've been challenged over the last year and a half with losing staff to retirement and taking other jobs and not being able to fill the positions quickly. So we've had a part-time person in a very crucial role with our elderly homeowners and disabled homeowners program. She also administers our veterans benefits, but she's only able to work on a part-time basis. So we had to amp up the part-time this year, where it wasn't as full last year as it needed to be. Same goes with overtime. It's just with everything going on with the reval, we're anticipating that work is going to continue through the summer, and the need for some extra overtime was we were a little underfunded there last year. As far as the same thing happened with printing and duplication. The accounts have been underfunded for the last couple of years. So when I started getting the bills throughout the fiscal year this year and last year, I started noticing that we had some shortages. I was having to transfer funds around. So we put some extra money into those two funds as well to make sure that we can print our grand list books in a timely fashion without any delay. If there's any questions, sure.
Paul, on that comment, right? You said you've moved money. So the printing and duplication actuals in line 29 then, do they not reflect the historical actuals on printing? Because you look back at 22, it's 9,000, it's 8.7 in 23. Year to date and forecast for 24 is 13.6, and it jumps up again. It just, I want to understand and try and correlate your comment on historical actuals were higher than what you've anticipated, yet I can't track it in just that line item.
Okay, when we were putting together this budget for this year, I was looking at what our coming year is going to be with having to print books and send out notices. And based on the quotes that I was receiving, it just seemed like we were going to end up spending more this coming year than we did the last couple of years. So if I didn't say it the first time, that's basically what it comes down to. It just seems as though we're going to have more expenses this year because we're going to have some catching up to do, because there's some things that didn't get printed in the past that are going to end up being printed again this year with grand list books and things like that.
And it looks like quite a bit, or actually most of the increases in wages and salary.
Yeah.
Correct.
Again,
So,
we're nibbling around the edges. There's no question there. But again, every penny helps.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
I'd like to suggest that we leave that printing just as an open item, not saying, Paul, we're not going to fund it, but as we look at, how everything rounds out, there may be things we can do there, and you can come back to us from a contingency perspective if we need it. Not saying, again, that it's off the table, just saying as we do the final roll-up, I'd suggest we look at that line item again.
Yep.
All right. The other place, the other thing that I wanted to talk about is that when you look down to 11321, which is also the assessor's office, but that's our reval. That number obviously went way down because the majority of the reval is done. So we may be able, over the course of time, as we get closer to the beginning of the fiscal year, we may be able to trim some of that as well to help you guys as we start to get towards the end of where that there's no surprises that come out of the reval or the board of assessment appeals where the reval companies have to do some extra work.
Mm-hmm.
So we might be able to have some give backs there as well.
Makes sense.
Is it possible that the give back could be as much as $100,000, given that in fiscal 22 the expenditure there was 38,000? I'm sorry, did you hear me?
Did you? Well, you had said Tom. Did you mean Paul?
Oh no,
Yeah, sorry.
I meant Paul. It's budgeted. Why it went up to?
We're at 198.
Somebody should
For the
be on
reval
mute because we're
company,
getting a
yes.
lot of background. We're getting a lot of background. Everybody should be on mute unless they're going to be speaking.
I think Paul, the background, it just keeps on coming up. There we go.
Okay, so in regards to the reval, yeah, I don't know exactly how much it'll be. Could it be 100,000? It could be, but like I said, I won't really have a good handle on that until we get through with the Board of Assessment Appeals and knows that we don't have any surprises in store where I have to all of a sudden ask the reval companies to do anything unexpected.
Understood, but this other professional services, purely the reval company. Could we put this item on the open list as well?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
That's fine.
I have a question about wages and salary. Correct me if I didn't hear this right, but so the issue is some folks are retiring or switching jobs, so you have a part-time worker who's filling in to do the work. Is that correct?
Yes, I had one person who left Norwalk and she went to Wilton. We
Okay.
no longer have the assessor currently, so I've been filling both roles, but we also lost one of our assistant clerks to retirement. And so people have been filling in over the course of the past 12 to 15 months to fill those gaps, along with the part-time person being there 37 and a half hours a week. So the part-time, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so my question, shouldn't that reflect in the numbers? Shouldn't there be a decrease in wages for the folks who left, and an increase for the part-time worker? Like the part-time and overtime, that makes sense, but isn't she filling in for folks who left? Why isn't there a decrease somewhere else?
Well, I'm going to defer to Tom, but I'm going to tell you what I mean. I believe that they fund the salary line as if all the jobs were going to be filled, and the part-time line, if I'm not mistaken, that's like extra money that we had to put aside so that we could pay for the part-time person. But the positions that are supposed to be filled with full-time people on the full-time line don't get decreased.
So do you think it'd be fair to have the extra money be contingent on a need?
Yeah, we could review that. I could sit down with Tom Livingston and we could figure something out.
It could be, since the pot is there for salaries and wages regular, we can do a transfer during our monthly meetings from that to the part-time if there's a need for the part-time. And similarly with the overtime as well, since the reval is done, one would think that your process is a little less labor intensive. So I would wonder whether or not we could put the 20,000 and the 25,000 on the open items list.
Yep. Let's do that at this point, and we'll reevaluate it when we get to the end.
Great.
Other comments from other BET members?
Yeah, I do have a quick comment. I think that doing it that way, like not funding a position fully, but funding it on the number of months that are left in the fiscal year or something like that, it's going to create a little bit of a problem next year because that position will show as being underfunded, and the monies that are funded for the full-time position and are not used are available to be used, either in some other part of the department, or will fall to the fund balance. Now, I realize we want to keep taxes as low as possible, so every amount that we don't have to fund fully, we probably shouldn't, just to keep taxes low. But it does seem a little unwieldy, potentially, to do it that way. Right? I'm not sure if that's correct.
Yeah, Ed, I want to make sure we're all talking the same way, because I believe what we agreed is to keep the full year funding for the full-time employee, that line 23 on our spreadsheet. That remains. The point on the increased funding for overtime and part-time is what we're suggesting we reduce at the moment to flat to FY24, with the understanding that if we get additional overtime, if we need additional part-time, that's something we can either fund from contingency, or if the department is underrunning on full-time, we can do a transfer during the year like we've done for other departments. But it keeps the full year head count full-time headcount where it needs to be so that next year you don't have a run rate problem.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I thought it was the other way around, so I apologize.
Yep. Okay. So those will be on the open item. Any other questions for the tax assessor and the tax assessor reval departments? Okay, then let's go ahead and move on to the tax collector's office.
Good evening, folks.
Tom, I'm sorry, you're on mute. Yep, now we can.
Thank you. Tom, you're on mute if you were speaking.
Just give me a moment here. I just wanted to follow up on something. It is our standard practice to fully fund all of the positions in each of the full-time lines. I know there's another school of thought that says you take the midpoint of the vacancies and try to calculate. We've never done that. It would be, I don't know, just too complex, on top of the fact that certain departments, like the fire department, is always struggling to fill their positions with the academy. And then there are other departments that are already full, so, and are on a normal basis are full. So just to be consistent across the board, all full-time positions are assumed to be filled in our budget process.
Right.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Thanks for the clarification.
So I think the only thing I'm not questioning, because I know there's an explanation, is the software, $70,000. And maybe we can talk about that, because that seems to be the driving force for the 11.3% increase, other than salaries.
Yes, what happened was in the past, we had a different tax and assessment software. And last year, a year ago, we changed over to a different system. And we are now responsible for paying directly from our division to that vendor. That was not something that was in my budget in the past. I did not pay a fee to a vendor for my software in the past, but we now do. And it started this particular year, and I had to scramble to get money to pay it in this current fiscal year. So we wanted to ensure that we are properly budgeting for it. Next year, it was $67,000. This year, it's budgeted for $70,000 for next year.
I also know there were some glitches. Have they been straightened out?
No. And I paid a portion of the bill that we were billed, and I have not paid the remainder. I've paid the vendor half of what they billed me. And I'm still communicating back and forth with them to try to get resolution, but it doesn't affect the data, and it doesn't affect what our taxpayers are receiving in the mail from us or anything like that. It basically affects processes in our office and things that we have to deal with in the back office, basically. So just so that people have confidence in our numbers and so forth, I wanted to add that.
Okay.
So Lisa, the prior software, which I believe was the Munis software, was the software license fee for that paid out of IT or another department?
It was. That's correct.
So Tom, I don't believe we've gotten to that department yet. Will we see a corresponding net down in IT spend for what was historically the Munis license that offsets at least part of the 70,000?
You would normally, but Joyce will explain further. There's some other software items that are driving the increase that they have year over year. So just a little more background on this. Paul also has a chunk of the QDS vendor bill in his section too. And what we've sort of taken the approach of recently is software that's, sort of pushed out to the majority of the city, or at least more than half of them, is covered by Joyce. Software that's somewhat unique to one or two departments, we're trying to allocate back to those individual departments for more transparency in their, for them to run their business. So you'll see it with QDS, and timing is perfect. Chitsmay has an example upcoming on the accounting and treasury side with the new timekeeping system. So we sort of get together and we talk about whether or not it makes sense to to reside in one organization, or if if it affects or impacts enough of the citywide departments, then it should go to Joyce on the IT side.
No, I get that and I appreciate that. I guess when we get to Joyce though, even though she's trying to reallocate budget to other areas, I would like to understand what the corresponding Munis software license costs used to be compared to the QDS software license costs, as just a comparative point. Understand in general, is that saving the city money or is it costing us money? Because the implementation is certainly costing us at the moment.
Yeah.
Understand that there's really not a choice, but we ought to be looking and understanding what the ins and outs to the overall spend are to that specific line item, please.
Okay. Joyce, do you want to take that now, or you want to wait till we get to IT, or?
I can take that for now. For the Munis, we have the tax module that's about $32,000. That's including in part of the Munis, like the we call that enterprise ERP system, that including the budget, payroll, HR, account receivable, payable, purchasing. So that's all included, and tax module is one of them. Munis, we as a city, we are the only vendor Munis have in the Connecticut that's using their tax module. So for the longest time, I think Lisa department is struggling with Munis too. But so that's when when Paul Goldman, the Bill Ford and Paul, when they are on board, they was since I would think 99% of the Connecticut town and city, they are using QDS, so they want to give QDS a try. Munis is happy to let us go because they really cannot keep up with the Connecticut tax anymore. So they do have in Massachusetts or other New York or other state that they have a majority of a client that they can support. So given that we are the last one, they are happy to let us go, and then QDS is they are giving a try with QDS. I can see the difference between these two is, first, the price is a big difference, but what QDS having, I believe they are providing white glove service. They do everything for you. They will even print out the report, or they will send out the mail merge, or they will send out the notification for you. So those kind of thing is adding on to that services. So that's even though there's a big price difference, but that's kind of business decision back then with assessor, collector, and Henry. Yeah.
Right. So it's not germane to tonight's deliberations because the decision on the vendor's already been made. The vendor cost is pretty much double the historical costs, and then the question really becomes what more, and it's not our responsibility, but what more can the city do to help Lisa get the level of service and support she needs from the software, because it's been an ongoing problem. But basically, thank you. I at least now understand why the line item is here, the fact that the line item is double versus our prior vendor commitments, what we're supposed to get out of it, and then it's up to the workings of the city to work with the vendor to make sure we get what we are supposed to out of it. Other questions from other BET members on the tax collector line item? Okay, seeing none, let's keep moving, Tom. Tom, you're on mute again.
I was just letting Chitsumay know she could move on to her area.
Thank you, everybody. As we look at the total, the increase is attributed to the IT software. Basically, what happened to us was our current vendor for our time and attendance program they were bought out by Chrono, so we were required to migrate to this upgrade of a new software, and that's mainly the increase. I know that last year, we did go out for RFP to look at other time and attendance program. And, you know, it worked in our favor because, the Chronos, buying out our current vendor gave us some discount on the implementation cost. So with this, you know, with an upgrade of anything, there's always gonna be an increase in the software cost. So that's where the $70,000 increase comes from.
Okay, same situation as the prior one. I assume that this 70,000 is a new line item, Chitsumei, in your specific budget. It was in the IT budget.
No, well, there's a portion that is in the IT budget and there's a portion that it's in our line item. So currently, here's our professional services. So we pay about, I would say 80,000 each year, but because of this new upgrade, I guess we wanted to show it as a separate line, to show what the increase is. Part of it is because, you know, the software is more expensive and it's really based on how many users is using the program itself and the time clock itself. It's a little bit more sophisticated than what we have.
Can I chip in this item? So IT do have an item for the Nova time, but what we paying for the clock maintenance and also the annual subscription. Right now, as a Chisholm's office is paying for a monthly usage fee. I think there's a two, so they are separate two items. So I pay part of it, the Nova time maintenance from IT software, and Chisholm's office also pay part of that, you know, because that's the kind of that's a monthly charge, right, Chisholm?
It's basically for the support that we need if there was any issues with our time clock or the programming of the rules and the policy that we could call support service.
Okay. All right, back to Chitsume's budget, other questions on hers from other members of the BET?
I just have one, and probably like to keep it as an open item. I'm a strong advocate for people going to different training seminars and so forth, and I noticed that they went from $10,000 down to zero. I'm just wondering whether that was to try to get within the budget. And if so, I'd like to keep that as an open item because I think it's really important.
So, Chitsume, is the mayor's assertion correct that you took it out to try and minimize costs and that we're not training people?
Well, I mean, we always look to train people every year, but I think this was budget's approach to kind of help with the current year, the fiscal year 2025 budget. I mean, we would love it if we could get that back.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have no issue.
Yeah, that's a very minor amount. You know, it's so, I always like to see if departments can send people for training, send people for conferences, where they can, you know, gather information that's going to help them in their position.
Yep. Does anybody have any issue keeping it as an open item?
No, that's fine, but there is a corresponding increase of $10,000 under a new account called training and education. So I think the two walk.
Yeah, that, you know, the Chitsume, what do you think about that? Is that kind of like how we did that?
A transfer to clarify that it's a training and education. I know.
Excuse me, Chitsume, I'm having a difficult time hearing you. I'm not sure if anyone else is.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, so I guess that was a more a descriptive of training and education versus seminar in conference. I mean, we know, currently we have 6 full-time employee. We usually have them go out for our Munis, which is our ERP system for training, and we would like to send additional employee if we can. So this $10,000 is our our ERP system training and also sending 2 or 3 employee, but if we could send more,
Mhm.
that would be great, just because we're looking forward to make sure that when the new hires come in, they have the proper training of all our accounting system.
Yeah. So yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to keep that as an open item.
That's fine. Any other questions for Chitsame? All right, let's go to the Office of Management and Budgets.
All right, that's Agnes and I and a little bit of Lola. So overall, we're at 7%, and it's almost like I teed this up for you perfectly, Mayor. My big increase is in seminar and conference fees. So
I walked into that one, didn't I?
I guess I should just ask any questions. No. The reason for that is I shouldn't say governed, but we are, let's say, guided by the GFOA. That's the Government Finance Officers of America. It's a pretty good organization that provides guidance and highlights trends and what other municipalities are doing. And now that I've been here for a couple of years, I feel like that would be a real good thing for Agnes and I to take advantage of. They do an annual conference that gets people from all over the country and Canada, and some terrific speakers and lots of vendors. Last year it was on the West Coast. This year it's in this June it's in Orlando, and next year it's in Washington, D.C. So by virtue of it being on the East Coast, it's a whole lot more affordable for us. So that's why I put that in there. And really the only other significant increase is on the office supplies. Yeah, just the printing, basically, we print a lot over here. Despite cutting down on the agendas and everything else, we still get some pretty heavy use out of our printer and such. And again, this is also the binders for all the budget books that we do, and printing the tabs and other things like that. So that's basically the story there. Any questions?
Well, if you look at the increase of $26,000, that it results in 7%, $26,000 is quite minimal, I believe, and I don't think there's any serious concerns here.
Are you saying
Nothing.
Are you saying I do a lot with a little? Is that what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you can ask for more, so.
No, I think
Just
sorry.
one procedural question on office supplies and printing. Is the city, I should know this and I don't, is the city required to provide hard copy materials for certain things? I know, for example, most of us from a BET perspective would be fine with digital copies of every single one of the documents that we receive, but is there a requirement to provide hard copy?
No, I don't. I think that's diminishing. Whatever requirement was what there was is diminishing, as well as my other fingernails and chalkboard moment is putting ads in the paper for all the meetings. I mean, who
Understood.
Yeah, we know what's the Norwalk hour now? Not as big as it used to be, right? So, but that's not a battle I can solve right away. But yeah, no, it's probably more than we should, but we are cutting down. The requirements are less and less with each passing year, so there might be some opportunity there. But
Again, it's small numbers.
Not a whole lot.
Yep. Okay. Anything else on this line item from any other members of the BET? All right, then let's roll right into purchasing.
Yeah, so Sharon has both purchasing and the central services coming in at 3.2% and 1.7%. So that is solid on both accounts. Nothing looks too dramatic, office supplies, but from a percentage perspective, but certainly not from a dollar perspective. But I see Sharon now, and take it away if you want to cover any items in particular.
Sure. As you can see, most of our biggest changes is in postage. Obviously, the U.S. Postal Service reevaluates the rates January and July, so we can't predict how much that will go up or, unfortunately, continue to go up. Memberships, my team is fully staffed now, so as part of that, I want all my team members to be part of our public procurement associations. So we have a Connecticut one, and then we also belong to the national one. Advertising, little history on that increase. Historically, DPW had been posting their requirements for the advertisements for the public bids. It makes sense for purchasing to take over that so we can control, make sure it happens. Not that they don't do it, but we can also have a more of an accurate count of how many ads we're placing. They historically had been putting a larger size ad in. We do the bare minimum requirements. So that's why there's an increase in that one. And just office supplies, general materials that now being fully staffed, we just have a slight increase on that one. Under essential services, printing services, we do have some historical forms that we still use, so that's covering the cost on that. Printing has gone up. And then professional services, that's related to our mailroom services. The purchasing department oversees that process. We are on a contracted rate. I had to budget a little bit more for overtime because this year is an election year, national level. So the team actually processes all the absentee ballots, make sure that everything gets out on time by requirement. And so there could be potentially overtime on that area. And I think that is it of the major changes that you would see between last year and this year.
Okay. Questions on these two departments?
I have two questions. One on the line item of subscription tax, comma law. Are those for your own seats, or is this for the law department? And is there a way to combine them?
So that naming convention for the account, I guess the budgets management would have to appropriately change it, but we use that particular account for all our subscription services. One of them is the newspaper so we can have a copy of the ad that we place. The other one is we use a system called Bonfire. So this is our online portal where we publicly advertise all our solicitations for bids and RFPs. And sorry, the other one is, sorry, Periscope Holdings. We use that for commodity codes that we load into Bonfire and Munis.
And that's a $20,000 a year subscription?
So, no, there's various vendors that we use. So we have we have Periscope Holdings, and we have Bonfire, our sourcing software system. So Bonfire is the biggest chunk of it. And that's around $15K per year.
Got it. Given that you're doing the advertising for the bids for DPW, does it make sense to do the board notifications that Tom had referred to as an expense that's gone up? And maybe, I mean, is there an opportunity for you to save money for Office of Management and Budgets like you are able to do for DPW?
So the ads that purchasing publishes is a 2x4 or 1x4 ad, and Tom's team, and the other notifications are could be a quarter page ad, a half page ad. Tax collector does multiple full page ads for when they do the tax sale in the future, but it can't hurt for the purchasing department to ask Hearst Media to negotiate better rates for the city. I can tell you we haven't changed our rates for the city for the past 4 or 5 years.
So if you,
But-
if you're able to aggregate all the different departments in our spend with Hearst, perhaps you could get a discount for everybody.
Yep, can't hurt, right? If you don't ask, you don't know.
There you go.
Yeah, and the ads are, they go up exponentially with the size. It's really pretty shocking how expensive they are. For example, I mean,
Yeah.
when we do the monthly notification for the BET agenda, that's not really that big of a deal. Maybe $150. But when we have to start doing charts and tables, for example, when we print the mill rates and the tax implications of them, that if I'm not mistaken, last year that was close to $800 to run it for one day. So we try not to do those unless we absolutely have to. There's certain charter requirements. There's just no way around it. But and I think what Sharon was referring to, that DPW was running substantially larger ads than they had to. And Sharon noticed that and said, hey, we can streamline this and make it cheaper and more efficient and better for everyone. So I think that was the economies of scale were there, but not so much on the unique one-offs that we have a few times a year.
Right.
Understood.
And to
But I,
tag on to Tom's question, sorry. I guess the first question is we would have to find out from legal or any other group to find out what we are legally required to advertise, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yep. I just
so
think
we
Ann's
go from
suggestion was
that.
a good one in general, right? To have the city look at centralizing the negotiation with Hearst. So it's nothing that needs to change the budget, but it's a good suggestion. Take it under advisement. And
Mhm.
any other questions for these two departments? Okay, let's move to IT. There's a lot of money here.
Yeah, so overall, the percentage increase is 19%. A couple of the big hitters are telephone. Although we trimmed that, well, I shouldn't say we. Joyce was gracious enough to cut $100,000 from her request when we were looking to make some budget savings. But if you look down towards the bottom, the big hitters are IT software and cybersecurity, and Joyce is prepared with explanations for both of those, as well as hardware that's up quite a bit too. So, Joyce?
Okay, thank you, Tom. Thank you, everyone. So just start with the phone licensing. The reason, originally when we asked our vendor to give us a quote, we have the Cisco phone. It's without the licensing, this is just a piece of plastic. Cisco was trying to, well, every single software out there right now, they are trying to do the annual subscription base for all the software. And so when we reach out to our reseller and asking for the quote, they told us that if we do 3 years, it will give the huge discount, instead of doing annually. So that's why, we were putting that request originally. Then we were negotiate with them, back and forth, and the vendor now agree with to give us a 3 year, but we need a multi-year contract, but with the same price. So we be able to do, annually with the same price for 3 years. So for the Cisco phone, it's about $80 per person per year. And we are looking at 750 city phone here. the same item you probably will find from the Board of Education, because together we have a 1,400 Cisco phones throughout Board of Education, all the location, center office, and City Hall, and all the schools. So that's also going to be city pay for the half, and they are paying their portion. So that's $60,000, around $60,000 for city side, and same item will be show up on the Board of Education side. So that is
Joyce, I'm sorry, I understand everything you said, but
Mhm.
why is the licensing fees on software are going up by over $100,000 a year? If I look at what our historical run rate for phone software licenses have been, I mean, you
Right.
were at 152, and you're going up to 271. Cisco raised their rates by that much in a single year, or is that the 3-year cost that we're amortizing in 1 year?
That is well, the for the Cisco phone licensing, that is annual. So originally when we put in, now we can that's $100,000 we can deduct out from this operating. So for the other software, like for example, IT is handling citywide software. So lots of time when the other department, they have the needs of the software that and they do not have IT line item for the software. They kind of we are taking care of that. So one of the
But Joyce, I'm
Mhm,
sorry, I'm
mhm.
still just on the telephone line.
Okay.
Just on the telephone line. I understand everything you said, but I'm trying to clarify that, we are at an actual in 2022 of 179, 200,000 in 2023. We'll probably be at that close to that number for 2024, maybe a little under that.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden it's jumping by $70,000 next year. What drives the increase in of phone cost of $70,000 for the year? Is that simply
$70,000.
a rate increase from Cisco?
Yes. Cisco used to be used to give us a perpetual license. Now they are just start this year. They are going to retire all the licensing they have, and start from now on they are going to do that per person per year. Yeah, per person per year. And given that we have a 1,400 phones throughout the whole entire city and Board of Education, that this $60,000 increase is the city portion. Board of Education will have their own
Their
their
own.
portion.
Is there an easy alternative to Cisco?
No, actually, we were looking at the voice over IP phone. Actually, this $8 per person per month is the cheapest. If you look at the voice over IP system out there now, Microsoft also providing voice over IP, and also the Zoom is also doing that, and Ring Central. There are multiple competitor out there. They provide voice over IP system. But the thing is, we already have the Cisco phone, like a physical phone. Look, we already have that. Then the increase is just the licensing that we have with Cisco, and there's no. Everybody, I mean, and we talk with our reseller, everybody's very frustrated with the situation here, because that's how the vendor now, they are switching from perpetual license into annual subscription base. But if you look at that, we are paying $80 for the license for the phone for whole year for one person. It's just that the volume is big because we have 750 license out there. So that's why 80 times 750, we are looking at around $60,000 increase.
How does it work? Because if I look up central services, there's also a $65,000 budget item for telephone. Is that the same, but just allocated?
You mean the central service,
Yeah, they have a line item for $65,000 for telephone.
that's Sharon's office?
Mhm.
Well, Sharon, I'm not sure what's your line item, but my line item is for the desktop phones.
Maybe we could just,
Tom, can you just have that explored on the open item list to why it's showing up as two different things?
I just have a quick question. Is
Yeah.
every single phone needed? I mean, is there duplication in terms of 2 or 3 phones in an office with maybe one person in it? Has there ever been an audit done on all the phone lines?
Actually, yes. I think last time when we do the audit is throughout the whole entire city is but before COVID. We kind of trace every single phone to make sure that there's no extra licensing, out there, because it's like phone is like an email system, right? So we have the centralized manager that monitor every single phone. If the phone is not being used or something, we will know. So that's why IT is have this onboarding, offboarding process. If anybody is leaving, we are resetting there, but the desk, is still there and it will replace with somebody else. So you still need to have the phone extension there, So we kind of monitoring, what's going on with all the licensing. So we send everything centralized so we can assign the license and remove a license from. But each of the office space already have the phone connecting to certain office space. So well, the license still required to providing to that.
All right, so we'll double check what this line item is in central services as well, Tom, and you'll get back to us on that. Let's move to some of the other line items. I think we've exercised this one about as far as we can get it this evening.
So another big price, big item that is the IT software. So like I said, IT is supporting all the other departments. Like for example, the health department is asking for a Tableau license. So currently they are paying with their grant, but they're asking in the future, next year, they would like to have 2 Tableau license, which is $8,000 per year. They would like to IT to pick up that the licenses for the next year. So they will give a trial out for 7 months with the grant money. But health department dealing with lots of data, they would like to have using Tableau to showcase their data and helping them to do the visualization and share with public and and resident. So that is another $16,000. We are adding that's a new software. And also I think health library is also upgrading their catalog system. So that's another $16,000 they were adding on to our budget for the software. For the mayor's office, there is a next request, which is the FOIA software that we are adding to to take care of all our FOIA requests. So this year, since we have that for this year, but next year is also adding that software to our software pool, which is that is additional around $11,000 for that next request FOIA request software. Yep. And for the cybersecurity, there is
Hang on.
Oh,
Before you go there, right? You just explained $40,000 of a requested $180,000 increase.
Right. And
Where's the other
also,
$140,000, please?
right, every single item, like under the IT software, we have the software associated with that. That's already either contractual or is already being used for all the department. And each year depends on the company, sometimes 3 to 5%, sometimes it could be 7 to 8%, depends. So start from this year, we're going to work with each vendor to try to negotiate with and do 3 to 5 years multi-year agreement. So we will be able to lock in the rate. Some company, when I reach out to them, they say we don't do that. We are going to do annual base. We are not going to sign a contract with you with multi-year. But some company just like, a special big company like Munis, we are spending $320,000 with them each year. And they last year we extend our contract to be a 3-year multi-year contract with Munis. So big dollar amount item that and the company were willing to negotiate with as in do a multi-year. So it will help us to do the projection.
Okay, so if I hear you properly, then you're saying roughly $140,000 of the IT software increase is contractually obligated for current software licenses, and there's about $40,000 in net new software for health department and a few other places.
Yes.
Is that a correct recap?
Mm-hmm.
Questions on this particular line item before we move to hardware and cybersecurity? Okay, let's move to cyber then, please.
Okay, so on the cybersecurity, City now have our own firewall. So when we have our own firewall is without the annual software subscription, right? Then without the software subscription, firewall is just a piece of how do you call it? It's a piece of hardware. So with a firewall, it's kind of the traffic filtering. So every traffic coming to the city, will go through the firewall, and everything going out to the city will also go through the firewall. So with the software subscription, update and support is very, very important. So that is additional cost that adding for this year. That's a $51,000 for one firewall. Then we also under cybersecurity, we add a new DMARC tool. It's kind of it's an email sniffing software. It's like kind of verify if the sender and the receiver is legit. So it's kind of scanner on the email. This software is suggested by Microsoft because Microsoft this part they didn't have covered this part of area. So Microsoft say it will suggest all the customer that using Microsoft Outlook and email system, adding this tool on top of that, on top of a service will help us to eliminate the attack from the email system.
Mm-hmm.
And that is $8,500, sorry, $8,500. On the cybersecurity, there's another additional item. We have a Microsoft Windows licensing. That's for the 10 virtual server. So this is an annual subscription base, but the vendor only with Microsoft, when it comes to the Windows licensing, they do 3 years only. So we cannot negotiate with them. That is additional $55,000, but that is covered for the 3 year. So the same item while repeating probably in 2028. 2027, I'll be asking the same amounts. Well, of course, more depends on Microsoft what kind of the price they are going to give us. But that is additional for this year. That you don't see that for from last year. So that is
Okay.
all the new addition for the IT software, cybersecurity, and telephone. That's where everything else is, just percentage increase through the subscription.
Okay.
Question.
Yes, Artie.
You said you had a firewall, email sniffer, I think you called it. How about antivirus software? Do you have a layer of that as well?
Yes, we already have that. So that's
Okay.
what we are describing here is all new.
Yeah, all new. Okay, is there an increase in that price, or you've negotiated for a couple of years?
Some company, they are open for negotiation, so we are now reaching out for all different company. Just of like last week, IT have the VMware, right? That is all virtual machine software. Out of the blue, they give us a quote from the vendor, just do the budgetary, and we just got a notice that they are increased $20,000 on the VMware, and everybody using the VMware got caught off guard. That's an additional $20,000 I didn't budget it.
That's $20,000 more? Okay.
Yes, $20,000 more.
Okay. For VMware, you said?
Yeah, VMware. Yeah.
Do
So
you use VPN also? Do you allow?
we also have another VPN license that is, we have 100 of those. Because the thing is, not everybody's working from home. So when we, we just license enough for 100, concurrent license that, for people that working from home will be able to have that. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joyce, do you have enough relative to cybersecurity? Because if there was a denial of service attack on the city, I think it would be quite catastrophic. And I guess the other question too, which you may or may not know, is does the city's liability insurance, would it cover a cybersecurity attack and the cost of getting us back up and running?
Yes, on the city side, we have we have a cybersecurity insurance covered, right? That is it's not under my budget item, but I believe it's on the financial. And maybe Tom, you can you can check in with this because I know it's not under my budget item.
Which item, Joyce?
The cybersecurity insurance.
Oh, yeah, I think, yeah, Craig does that under the insurance fund. I don't know, any of the details on it, but I remember hearing it being discussed.
Mm.
And Joy, I think the coverage is sufficient for what possibly could happen on the outside with the city?
The insurance cover for Board of Education and city. We I think well every year we do the start from like September. We kind of go through the negotiation with them. It depends because as an insurance company, they also do not want to over-insure you, in a way. And even we want to add a little bit more, on the, premium side, but they are not, they have a kind of set, a number that allow us to give, providing the service. So even as an insurance company, they are also afraid of that. They don't want to put in too much. To cover. So, so that's kind of the situation what we have right now. So what IT can do is just putting as much, software management as possible and keep on looking for a good software that will be patching, the whole of our security. Well, it is the AI world, out there. So we are trying to utilize AI to, preventing things happening. So in order to prevent lots of things happening, we are doing, cybersecurity training for our employee. We have an annual cybersecurity assessment just to from the third-party vendor. They were going through internal penetration, external penetration to look for the holes that we are not covering. And in the meantime, we also have, very robust cloud backup system that, backup 3-copy, local and in the server and the cloud. So we are trying to, check off following whatever possible cybersecurity, posture, and suggestion from the, from the state, and the federal, all the rules, like, I try to following. We also engage very heavily with states. They have the states, they have a CISO that helping us to evaluate our system. So we have them do the on-site security check for the cybersecurity. We also have them to do the remote security, testing on our system. We also have them coming over to do three days, sit with us, sit with our network team and system team to go over what our currently, current plan, what do we cover, what kind of software do we have. And they, by kind of discussing with them, they will give us suggestions. So every time when we do the cybersecurity assessment, or we are talking with a cybersecurity specialist, they give us some suggestion, and based on the suggestion, we go out looking for better, good software to covering for our, for our cybersecurity needs. So that is currently what we are trying to do. Since we do not have a CISO on board, we are trying as much as possible to utilize any external help we can get from the state. Yeah, and the third party vendor.
Joyce.
Okay, guys, we're getting off where
Just
our
I
mission is.
wanna
So,
make just
Ann, what's your last question, please?
not a question, it's a comment. Joyce, given that you bear the costs of a lot of infrastructure backbone in the city, and given the number of people that you support, both working internally as well as externally, your department does a great job for the amount of spend that you do.
Thank you.
Uh,
We try,
and
we
also-
try.
Also, Ed, I'd like to add, this is Troy. Yes, I appreciate Nancy, your vigilance here in a very ever-changing daily roles. And I appreciate your careful evaluation of competitive offers in the future. So I appreciate what you're doing in your office. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well spoken, both. Thank you.
And can I just jump in for a real brief moment?
Yes, Tom.
Yeah, Sharon came back on the line to talk briefly about the telephone charges in central services as opposed to the Cisco charges in Joyce's world. So if we could just let her address that, and then she can drop.
Please.
Good evening, everybody, again. So the charges that Central Services pays for is just basically the Frontier bills for the City Hall building, Health Department, and DPW garage. And then we also have some cable service into the building in the City Hall and then Health Department. Actually, there's 3 main buildings, so that's what Central Services is paying for. Again, it's just the Frontier
Okay,
charges.
so it's in no way duplicative then with what Joyce went through, which is basically the Cisco system.
Yeah.
Any additional questions on that now that we've gotten the clarification? Okay.
Thank you, Sharon.
No
Thank
problem.
you, Sharon.
Okay.
Thank you, Joyce. You're not
you.
quite done, but
All right, go ahead, Joyce. You can talk to GIS.
Right. Well, GIS is also under IT department. So you can see that there's not much GIS increase on that. The only The difference I would like to point it out is, well, I cut in the business expense into, half, because originally we are using this business expense to try to, hopefully, hire the third party vendor that can, kind of show us how do we utilize the GIS more efficiently. And that could be a webinar, because we, as a city, we have many GIS users throughout the whole, almost every department. And so that is some kind of expense we originally, put in the $5,000. And this year we didn't, utilize that many. So we just, cut that into half. Another one is the professional service. While this professional service is actually, while we are under the upgrading of this the GIS server right now. So we haven't upgraded our GIS service for, I would think, more than 5 years. So this is a very complicated process. So we are utilize the professional service to help us to go through this whole process. And that involving, upgrading all the server and upgrading the software, and and that's $12,000 we are under the, we are right now we are just doing it. So it is in the encumbrance, but it's not showing in this actual in 2024. Yeah.
Thank you, Joyce. Any questions on this department for Joyce? Okay. Tom, I think we're done with your whole team at this point.
Yeah, just the CISO at the bottom. I know we've been talking about that for quite some time. We originally had that in there at 167, but that was one of the first things to go when we started making our cuts. I think everybody knows the story here. But yeah, really not a whole lot to address, but it's we're all aware of it, and it we're thankful that Joyce has a good handle on things so far. So
Yeah, I agree. We looked at the 167, which was absolutely nowhere near enough. But again, Joyce is doing a lot of good things up there, and we truly appreciate it. And we feel very comfortable that we're doing everything we can at this point. I know the cybersecurity is extremely important for the council. It's been brought up several times, so we're doing everything we can right now, and I know Joyce is continuing to explore all the options and how we can make it even safer than she has it already.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to chip in with this. IT is undergo very major infrastructure change, right? Upgrade. So after we finish our upgrade, we probably will have the third party to evaluate what we are at that point. And at that point, we might, asking some kind of additional budget to cover for whatever we are lack of based on the suggestion from the vendor. So that's something that just maybe not this year, because we are still under a huge construction of our network services. But once we finish, it will be it will be up to the evaluation from the third party vendor. Then we will see if there's anything we need to add on top of our existing infrastructure. Just want to give you guys a heads up.
Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, and know that we may have to speak to you during the year regarding that. Before we turn to the mayor for closing remarks, any closing remarks from any of the BET members? All right. Again, on behalf of the BET, Tom, to you and all of your department heads, not an easy year for sure. We recognize that. While we've had some good, challenging conversations, completely recognize how hard the team works with limited resources to support the entire city. And as Troy and Ann said earlier, on behalf of all of us, I'd like to say thank you to all of the department heads for their continued effort, as well as their commitment to being as cost effective as possible in FY25. Mr. Mayor, any closing remarks from you?
No, I want to thank the BET. I know, as you mentioned, this is Ed. This is really a challenging year. Again, the people have stepped up to the plate, including our finance team. They've done a remarkable job in trying to keep things as affordable or try to keep the budget as low as possible, but also to help us get through the issue, get through the times, because we're, as I said, when we move forward and we lost our CFO, the team stepped up and filled in very nicely, and we feel very comfortable that we're going to put together the best budget we possibly can.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With that, may I get a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll do it.
Thank you. Kendrick and moved. All in favor? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you again on Wednesday night. Thank
The
you
big
very
one.
much. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks, you too.